What's up, family? Thank you so much for coming through and kicking it with me tonight. If this is your first time here and you like the content, make sure you hit that subscribe button on your way out. So guys, I'm going to be giving a little commentary on the latest episode of Iyanla Fix My Life, Raised by Monsters. That was a perfect title for this particular episode, and my first thoughts on this is just depraved. The people that raised these children on this episode were absolutely sick. They were demons. I can't even get them depraved. They were demons straight out of hell. So, I don't know. This kind of reminded me of, I don't know if y'all seen Antoine Fisher, but that was a story about this guy who was adopted. His mother was always also on drugs or whatever, and his foster family was like complete trash, and I believe one of the daughters of the foster family was sexually, abusing him and everything, and he just had all of this pent up aggression and anger, and he was getting into trouble in the military. He was in the military at that point, and that's really what this story reminded me of. Like, these foster families, man. And I'm a foster parent, but dang, like, y'all giving us a bad name. For real. So, I'm going to go ahead and dive in. This episode was about 5 siblings. Kadeem, he was 28. He was the one that wrote into the show. He also has a twin named Kadera.
Rita being, absent.
Who's Rita?
My biological mother.
You call her Rita?
Yes.
Do you know her?
No.
So take me back for a moment. You grew up in foster care from 3 to 12?
No.
No?
No.
You were adoptive parents?
Yes. So what happened, we were taken from, me and my twin sister were taken from Rita as soon as we were born. And we were placed in the foster care system to begin with. We spent like 11 years, and then eventually some lady adopted us.
And how was that?
It was cool for the time being, but at that same time, she said, "You're gay, and I know it. And we're going to send you somewhere to pray the gay away from you."
How old were you?
At this time, I was probably like 15. But,
Who taught you about sex?
well, I wasn't taught about it. I was just told what to do when it came to that. Like, at a younger age, they would force me and my siblings to perform sexual acts on one another.
On one another?
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute. On the siblings?
The 4 of us.
You, William,
Michael, and Kadera.
And Kadera. So that's how you learned about sex.
Mm-hmm.
So, just jumping right in, he comes in and meets Iyanla, and Iyanla has a trash bag for him, and it has a crock pot in it. And he basically explains to her that he was hit with a crock pot because he was washing the dishes in cold water. So I'm like, oh man. These kids were really abused. So the vibe that I got from him was that he was really soft-spoken, and for me that kind of told me that, I can't say soft-spoken, he was really polite, soft-spoken, but you could tell that he had probably been really raised that way, like with an iron fist, you know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, all of the siblings were like that. They were really polite, soft-spoken. They weren't rude, unruly, or anything like that. So we dig a little bit more into that. Next, Iyanla meets Kadera, which is Kadeem's twin sister. And I believe she put out of her bag a megaphone because she had lost her voice. So we find out that Kadera had been raped by her foster parents, raped, molested, beat, everything else. And I can imagine, she said that it started when she was 5 years old. So I imagine when you're that young, you probably do lose your voice because you're experiencing these things from people that are supposed to be protecting you, your foster parents, and they're doing everything but that. So it's like, who do you really have to run to, or feel like is going to stick up for you? I would lose my voice too. If you know nobody is going to defend you, what can you do? So next we meet Michael. He's 29 and he's also very polite, you know. And we find out that he has epilepsy because he had been beaten with, I believe it was baseball bats and golf clubs and just all kinds of crazy stuff. So I'm just like, oh my God. It's just really sad that like foster homes are put there so children who are coming out of bad situations have a safe haven, and then they get in these places where it's probably worse than it was at home. And it's just terrible. And it makes me really think about like why our society is the way it is. Like if these type of people are raising our children, it's no wonder why things are the way they are. You know, these people put on a good show probably for these social workers and everything, but behind closed doors, they probably doing something totally different. And how sick do you have to be to hurt a child, somebody that's totally defenseless, you know, somebody that you bigger than, stronger than, all of that. Like you got to be a sick individual to hurt a child. But getting into this Kool-Aid. Yeah, so next we meet William, and he's the oldest boy, and he has been incarcerated on and off for 14 years. And I don't know if it was just for fighting a lot and drugs. I'm not sure what he was incarcerated a lot, but later we find out that he used to be locked in the basement a lot as a child, and I'm gonna say that for later. But they used to make him do crazy things just to get out of the basement and get food and water to eat. And these people was just, I would like to know, honestly, if these people ended up doing any time. Are they in jail? That's what I want to know. I wonder what happened to these foster parents. At any rate, we next meet Shalimar, and she's the oldest sibling. Now, Shalimar is a little bit different because she was raised by her grandmother, so she didn't have to go into the foster care system. So when she opens her trash bag, there's a tiara in it. Because I guess, you know, all the siblings think that, you know, she had it really great. I don't know. Yeah, she was raised in a loving environment. She didn't have to, you know, beg for food and water. So on the outside, it seems that, you know, she had a good home life. So next, Iyanla sits down with Kadeem, which is one of the twins. And he basically explains to her that he would have to perform sexual acts on his siblings just for his basic needs, which is just absolutely disgusting. I want to know who would want to see something like that. You know, first off, they're children, you know, so it's like, why would you want to see children engaged in a sexual act, number one? And then number two, you knew these children were siblings. So I'm just like, man, it also makes you wonder, like, what happened to that person? What happened to them that made them have this sick mentality? Maybe their parents had them do the same thing, but I guess we find out that Kadeem is gay, and that's why the foster parents made him engage in these sexual encounters. I don't know if they were trying to turn him straight. He did mention that the foster parents wanted to pray the gay away. This is a bad look. It's a bad look for religious people. I consider myself, you know, somewhat religious, but I'm like, that's mental illness. I can't even claim religious on that. Like, y'all can take that. That's sick. So whatever. Another thing I was thinking about was, you know, some of the siblings, it had been, I think it was William, the one that had been incarcerated for 14 years, he hadn't seen his siblings in like 14 years or so, or 10 years, something like that. But how hard is it to even forge a relationship with your sibling knowing that you have been intimate with them? That's hard in and of itself, because I know they must have feelings of shame, guilt, resentment, disgust. That's hard. So, you know, I can see why Kadeem wrote into the show, you know, like, this is a hard thing for anybody to get past. They definitely need help, counseling, probably years of therapy, you know. So we also find out that Kadeem has also, you know, had a history of violence, fighting, being locked up, and who can blame him? Who can blame him? Anybody, I think, would have a certain amount of rage and aggression just pent up inside them if they had to go through something like that. Just feeling helpless and not being able to defend your other siblings, that's probably horrible. So next we so the first exercise, Iyanla just throws everything, all of the contents of those trash bags on the table, and she wants them to basically get a good look at what all of their issues are, what they've been through, what they need to get past. So that was the first exercise, and Michael says that he's basically looking at troubled times. He's thinking about torture. And I feel like Michael probably had it the worst out of everybody, since he was, you know, getting beat with bats and he ended up with epilepsy. So he has some issues going on there. So next, Kadira and Iyanla sit down, and that's one of the twins, 28 years old. And she's explaining her story to Iyanla, and she's telling her how, you know, her upbringing was hard, and she recalls a particular moment in her childhood where one of the foster parents, I believe, said that they were going to the store and, you know, asked them if they wanted some chips, pop, what have you. And they said, if you want, you know, these snacks, you have to engage with your brother. She didn't get into detail, but you had to do something to your brother to get the snacks. So after that point, she said, if I had to do this to get food, you know, snacks, I'd rather just starve. So I believe after that point, she was basically eating bread and water. And, you know, again, like her brother, like, she lost her voice. That's why Iyanla had the megaphone in the trash bag for her when she opened it. It's like when you're dealing with something like that, who do you run to? So her demeanor is just really soft-spoken, reserved. Iyanla takes her outside for exercise where she's telling her to basically talk to this mailbox like it offended you. And she's having her scream at the mailbox, I guess trying to teach her how to use her voice, so to speak. And basically telling her, you need to learn how to use your inner bitch, you know, for lack of a better word. And that's something that all of us women need to learn how to do, because a lot of times people like to walk over women, take us for granted, ignore us, you know. So every woman needs to know how to do that. So that was interesting. Next, Iyanla sits down with Shalimar. She's the oldest out of all of the siblings. She's 32. She's the one who was raised by her grandmother. And she is basically explaining to Iyanla that she feels left out because she wasn't raised around all of them, and she doesn't understand why they're mad at her. And Iyanla is explaining to her that, you know, they probably resent you to some extent because they think that, you know, you had an easy life. And, you know, compared to them, maybe she did, you know. So we also find out that her mother, her name is Rita, and some of the siblings never even met her because they were taken away when she was younger. But her mother had a choice to either, you know, I guess get clean and stay with her and the grandmother, or leave with this man. She decided to leave with this man, so. So, you know, we kind of revisit that whole generational curse thing because I believe Rita's mother also wasn't around. We find out that she got pregnant with Shalimar when she was 16 years old. So we kind of revisit that whole generational curse thing in this family, her mother being on drugs and abandoning the children. It's just, and you know, I don't know if this was 80s or 90s when these kids grew up, but it's just like that whole 80s, 90s era, like I feel like we just lost a generation to drug addiction, and the kids coming out of that generation really had to suffer the consequences from that. It's really sad. It's really sad. So next Iyanla sits down with all of the brothers, and they're basically talking about William and all of his aggression. But then we also find out that Michael had previously pulled a knife on William for whatever reason. So you can tell that all of the siblings, not just Michael and William, are dealing with this built up aggression in them. And Iyanla has them basically touch each other and say, like, I got you. And I guess this was to symbolize, like, you don't need to fight so hard anymore because I got your back. And I guess that's something that they all need to hear, because I imagine, like, going through what they went through, they probably didn't feel like anyone was there to protect them. So they felt like when they did get big enough to defend themselves, like they had to fight back, you know? That's what I got from that exercise anyway. So the next scene, William sits down with Iyanla, and well, not sits down, they're actually outside after that last scene. He's basically saying, like, you know, God will never forgive me for what I did. And I assumed he was referring to how he had to touch his siblings, you know. So she has him speak into a hole in the ground. I don't know exactly what she was trying to do by that, but maybe just burying away all that toxic energy, toxic thoughts, toxic memories, all of that. Maybe she was trying to get him to put it in the ground, bury it, and just get rid of all of that bad energy. That's what I thought she was trying to do. I don't know. I don't know. But he did mention, like, molestation and things like that. I don't know. I guess that's what she was trying to do. Like, you know, just throw it away. Get rid of all of it. It's the past. It's trash. It's bad. It's demonic. Get rid of it. Get it out of your life. I guess that's what she was alluding to with that. So the next scene, Iyanla sits down with all of the siblings, and oh, so they talk about their mother a little bit, which none of them really acknowledge their mother as a mother. They call her Rita because, like, you know, she wasn't around. So, hey, I ain't mad at them, you know. She wasn't a mother. She didn't do the motherly duties, so, hey, why not? She was 16 when she had Shalimar, the oldest daughter, like I said, and Iyanla tells them that before you judge her too much, and also to understand your own story, you need to understand your mother's story. So, you know, I think that was like, just goes along with judging people. Like, you need to walk them out in someone else's shoes before you judge them. So, you know, she was addicted to drugs, and we find out that her mother wasn't around when she got pregnant with Shalimar. So, and that's why you shouldn't judge people too harshly. You know, you don't know what they've been through. So I can understand that, but I don't know. It's like having 1-2 child is one thing, but like 3, 4, 5 kids, I'm like, come on, you know, you can't take care of the first couple ones. But I guess when you're on drugs, you ain't thinking clearly, so I guess it don't matter. So next, Shalimar basically reads a letter out loud that she would have wanted to send to her mother so her mother could, you know, understand what she went through. And we find out that Shalimar was also molested by someone in her family as well. And it's crazy because it's like generational curses once again, you know, like even though the rest of the siblings thought that she escaped the pain and the turmoil that they went through, she really didn't. It followed her, you know, just like it followed them, even though she was in a quote unquote better environment. And I believe it was Michael. Michael got so upset that he couldn't even speak. And they actually had a medic come in at this point. You know, I can imagine that Michael was thinking as an older, well, he's younger than her, but you know, just still as a male protector type person in the family, like maybe she was like their hope, you know. And when you hear that the hope of the family, you know, the princess got violated too, it was just, maybe it was just so devastating to him. Like, we are just cursed. I imagine it was just too much for him. Too much for him altogether. It was really sad. Really sad. So, Iyanla was talking to Michael after the medic left, and Michael was just saying, like, I need to start getting this stuff out and stop holding it in because I'm just hurting myself. So by that, I'm thinking that he meant holding things in is just coming out in negative ways. It's making me fight people and get myself in trouble. And maybe if I start speaking about it and expressing my feelings, maybe things will go better for me. So, you know, she's telling him, you know, breathe it out, do it a different way than the way that you've been doing it previously. So that was very good advice. You gotta, if you want to do better, you know, you gotta try something else. So so next, guys, Iyanla has William, the oldest brother, stand up and apologize to Kadira. And she's basically telling them, express yourself what you hate about this whole situation. So William is explaining that he hates that they were adults who violated us. He hates the fact that he was starved until he violated his siblings. And he has Kadira get up, which is, you know, the person, one of the persons that he violated, I'm imagining. And, you know, she has them basically talk to each other like, you know, it wasn't our fault that we had to do these things to survive. It was survival. You know, if they didn't have these sexual interactions with each other, they would starve or get beaten.
Do it different, baby. Do it different. Do it different. Say, I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry?
Yeah. What they made us do.
For what they made us do?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Look at him. I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry.
That they made us hurt each other.
That they made us hurt each other.
Please forgive me.
Please forgive me.
I love you.
I love you.
Yeah. I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry.
What they made us do.
What they made us do.
How they made us hurt each other.
How they made us hurt each other.
Please forgive me.
Please forgive me.
It wasn't his choice. Yeah, look at your brother. He's at the top of your line. He needs you. And you need him. He couldn't protect you then, but he can protect you now.
So they shouldn't be blaming each other. They should be putting all of that hate and rage and anger on the people that it belongs to, the foster parents. So you know, they forgave each other. You know, Kadira seemed a little resistant, and I imagine it is. You know, that's a hard thing to, it's a hard pill to swallow, trying to forgive somebody for that. But they all were children. I'm sure she understands, even though she might not be totally receptive at this point. You know, I'm sure she understands. So the last thing Iyanla says to them is that basically explaining to Kadira that, you know, I couldn't protect you then, but I can protect you now. So I think that will also help Kadira get over it. Just, again, acknowledging the fact that they were both children. It's not much he could have done, but, you know, they're older now, and he is in a better position to protect her. So maybe that'll help them with the healing process. Just now acknowledging that fact. He couldn't have done nothing, really. It's not like he had somewhere for her to go, you know. What was they gonna do as children? How would they survive? So I don't know. At the end of the episode, everybody sat down and had dinner, and Iyanla basically created this tradition where she had a quilt made of all of them, and it was going to start out that William was going to start with the quilt, keeping it for a year, and then he was going to pass it to each sibling year after year. So I guess making some positive traditions and building a family unit, that was a good thing. And sitting down, breaking bread together, talking, getting to know each other a little better, since they've all been kind of scattered about, not knowing each other, and, you know, in a long time. That's going to help them create bonds. So that was Iyanla. It was a lot. It was a lot. And there's going to be a part 2. So I'm going to get into that, because they're going to be sitting down with Rita, the mother. They finally got a hold to her. So I'm going to be all up in that, watching that to see what she got to say for herself, and just to see how the siblings respond to her. You know, I don't know if they're going to forgive her. I don't know if I could, after all the hell I had been through. I don't know. I'm going to leave y'all with this thought. Like, if y'all can't, if y'all know y'all not ready to have children, please don't have none. So they end up in the system and possibly have to go through a traumatic experience like that. Like, it's terrible. It's terrible. Foster care system is just, it's just terrible. At any rate, y'all, thank you for sitting down and chatting with me tonight. And if you like the content, make sure you hit that subscribe button on your way out, and I will see you next time. Peace.